So, if you are a discerning audiophile, in other words, somebody that really cares about the quality of the music and the sound that you get from your system, you've come to the right show because we have our special brand today, Alpine. We're going to break down some of the ridiculous, yes, I do say ridiculous technology that they have come up with, but now have made accessible through their status line. This is CMA Connected, brought to you by SiriusXM, all about Alpine. And it starts now. What's going on, guys, and welcome to another CMA Connected, brought to you by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu, and you are tuned into CMA Networks, where we talk mobile electronics day in and day out. But on today's show, we're going to focus on the upper echelon. We're going to focus on the stuff that honestly blows my mind today, because the kind of technology that a brand like Alpine is putting forward and making it available to consumers like you and I, and enthusiasts such as you and I, is really remarkable. And we've brought in some specialists today to kind of break that down, starting with our special guest, Colin Vargo. Colin, welcome to the show again. We're talking audiophiles. Can you break down for us our agenda for today's conversation?
Hey, Ben. So today we're going to be starting off with our S and R series speakers, which are the gateway into getting into audiophile type of products. Then we're going to move on to our status speakers, our status amplifiers, and finally our status DSP.
Well, thanks for being here, Colin. Can't wait to hear about the details of the status line. But first, an opportunity for our partner, SiriusXM, to remind you all why it's always a great attachment sale. When we come back, let's get into Status by Alpine. We'll see you after the break.
Hey, Paul here with SiriusXM, and I'd like to talk to you about attachment selling and why the SiriusXM product is one of the best things to add, especially since we don't trade dollars with any other category. I could go through all of this, but let's hear what some of our dealers have to say.
It's an easy add-on that takes, 10, 15 minutes if we're running an antenna, 1 minute if we've got an adapter to plug it into the factory SiriusXM antenna, and it's extra money, so no brainer.
I present it to every customer because a lot of customers don't know what all they can do with Sirius. They don't know what all content they could have. It just makes too much sense not to sell it.
It creates a different customer loyalty and customer security when you explain to them why it's a better experience. Just gets them back in the door, and then the next car, they're already asking for it again. So it just keeps selling itself. It makes more sense.
Well, there you have it. You heard from our dealers. Just remember some of the best practices. Make sure you have one on display so you can demo it. Make sure you're taking advantage of our rewards program, because if you're not taking advantage of that, you're leaving even more money on the table. Make sure you got our POP up on display. And other than that, just make sure you're recommending it.
And welcome back to the show. I want to welcome our two guests here. In the middle, we have Colin Vargo, our product specialist over at Alpine. Thank you for joining us, Colin. As well as our good friend Gord Brown from Gentech, who is the official distributor for all things Alpine in Canada. Now, gentlemen, today's conversation is a fun one. I know behind the scenes in our plannings, we're always geeking out about audiophile stuff, but now we actually get to talk about it, which is kind of neat. It's at the end of the season. Let's talk real quick, because when people see Alpine and they think audiophile, the first thing that comes to mind is obviously F#1 status. I mean, this is the pinnacle, the highest level of anything with regards to car stereo and technology. However, we have spent time talking about that. And I think what we want to talk about today, and I'll start with you, Colin, is kind of the trickle-down effect of those established and introduced technologies that F#1 status has put into the market, and how it's actually being put into formats, which I'll be honest is pretty much more affordable and accessible for many of us.
Sure. So one of my favorites is the cone material used on F#1 status has actually trickled down, cone material used in F#1 status has trickled down into the status line. So we're actually using the same type of carbon fiber material in our cones. So while we've taken lengths to make it more affordable, we haven't lost the purity and the stuff that makes F#1 status perform like F#1 status. We want to make sure that we deliver the highest possible caliber performance short of F#1 status in our status line.
And Gord, this is really important. And we see this through many different markets, not only our own, whereby manufacturers will have these flagship products to introduce certain materials and then give it a little bit of time. And suddenly you start seeing that become more affordable, more attainable. From a marketing standpoint, how do you see the status line? Like, who is the status line for, in your opinion?
Hey Ben, you know what? Honestly, the status line is really established as that place where the average consumer can still stretch and get to that achievable goal. Obviously, Alpine number one status is our race car. It's set up to be the learning and the engineering type of products that you see in virtually any other market. Whether it's the car manufacturers building their flagship supercars so that they can learn and grow into the other technologies, it's the exact same concept. What status does, besides the fact where it's built off of some of those technologies, it also opens up the lineup because it's more a la carte. You're not buying a complete package system that's built like purpose built, and when you're buying the Alpine F number one status, it's a complete package. Whereas with Alpine status, it allows you to buy the media player, it allows you to buy the processor, it allows you to get into the speakers or the subwoofers, whether you do it separately or you do it as a combination of packages. But it's achievable, and it's a place where you have those building blocks and you can still work towards achieving your ultimate goal, one piece at a time.
I like that a lot because a lot of us have big eyes but small pockets, so we can't do everything at once. So I do appreciate that. All right, so we're gonna get back to Colin here. You are the product expert. Let's kind of warm up this conversation with the S and R series speakers from Alpine. I mean, these are go-to speakers, but make no mistake. I mean, there are some audiophile grade type stuff going on here. So why don't you take away and talk to us a little bit about how individuals who want to get into that higher level of listening could benefit from even at the S and R level line.
Absolutely. So SNR, we'll start with S and we'll break it down a little bit. So the S series of speakers uses a mica infused polypropylene cone to make the cone as stiff and light as possible within a given price point. And these things punch way above their weight. For the cost involved in getting into an S2 lineup, I don't believe that any of our competitors deliver the same performance that S2 does. The next step up being our R2 lineup. R2 speakers use, we call it a glass fiber cone, also known as fiberglass, which is another ultra lightweight material, however, a little more cost involved to it. So it does push you up the scale as far as cost, but with some added performance benefits. The R2 series, high-res certified, as well as the S2 series high-res certified, but the R2 just delivers that lower distortion, next level of performance, and has the ability to deliver even more volume and more output from it as well.
Hey, Colin, those are great points. And again, with S being your kind of most price sensitive, there are a lot of opportunities at that point to still talk about the benefits of being high-res certified and why. So those are great stepping stones to kind of get into that category as well. Whereas, as you mentioned, like the R series product, especially with R2, where we've really kind of taken that second generation now, it's a purpose-built speaker. Maybe there's less focus on finding all the ideal sizes to fit every nook and cranny of the OEM applications, and they're really purpose-built for sound quality instead. So your options are a little less varied, but you can certainly take advantage of that and use that as an installer to leverage your skills and make sure that you're able to, eke out the best sound quality as opposed to just fitting a speaker into a spot.
Yeah, I mean, I'll comment on that real quick. The S series is a go-to for many shops, and it has the fitments to go with it. R2 especially is certainly starting to step into that more custom range of product. But at the same time, I've also heard these speakers installed properly, with the nice physical positioning, right? Pillars or whatnot that you want to do with them. But more so, if you put the right power, like these things can handle power. So, when you put the right power to them, it is surprising. And you mentioned the term punching above its weight class. I think R2 speakers, given the right power and the right positioning, absolutely shine. So great option if you want to step into that kind of higher end sound. But now we're going to take a leap. We're not a little step. We're going to take a big jump here because now for the rest of this conversation, we're going to talk about status. Let's start with the speakers. I know, Colin, you have some there. I want you to show. Status speakers is a big leap forward, not only in design and materials and technology. So, Colin, take it away. Tell us a little bit more about these status speakers.
So our status speakers use a double gathered surround that allows for extreme excursion in a high fidelity speaker. They also use a solid aluminum phase plug and a woven carbon fiber cone. Magnet structure is beefy, but attainable to fit into a lot of different vehicles. So we know that the challenge is usually depth. So you'll notice that the status speaker, the magnet, is very large in diameter. However, depth wise, it's actually pretty reasonable for such a high performance speaker. These speakers are made to deliver the highest possible high res performance. They will play up to 40K. One of my other favorites is the tweeter format. So we have two different tweeters. We have a small format tweeter, which is for factory fitment, and a large format tweeter for you guys out there that are going to fabricate getting your speakers into the car. This unlocks the next level of performance. And interestingly enough, they're actually the same exact price. So it's just an installation capability difference between the two of them. They both also have a phase plug in the middle of them to help radiate sound in the widest possible dispersion pattern. And these have a very, very smooth top end response even before being tuned. So where there are some of our competitors tend to be on the brighter scale, where you almost get the blood dripping off the earlobe effect before tuning them and trying to rein them in. Status, you're having to do a lot less fighting to remove that harshness, because these tweeters are naturally very smooth, very good dispersion pattern, and excellent sound quality.
Yeah, great points on that, Colin. And the other thing about the status speakers as well is every single one of them, whether you're talking the mid basses, the mid ranges, and the 3-way kits, and even the tweeters, all use that same consistent cone materials and surround materials, so that you don't have to have this gap between your resolutions and your sound signatures of each type of material. So when you're tuning that car, every single speaker in the car, when you're using status speakers, gives you that same baseline for your tuning. So you're not, again, you mentioned fighting when you're trying to tune those tweeters, for example. You're not up against different cone materials between the different size drivers in each case. So it's a really good opportunity for you to start with a good system and tune it to really deliver the maximum performance.
Now, maybe it's just me, guys, and I have a feeling you guys kind of share the same OCD-ness. But if I'm going to spend this kind of money and carefully plan out my system, things like that, what you just mentioned there, Gord, matter, right? Cone material, tonality, you want that sound to blend through all the frequencies, through all the different drivers. And this set obviously is made specifically to work with one another, right? But having said that, these speakers I have also heard, and again, you're going to need the right power to drive them. So this is a great segue to talk about the status amplifier options that we have. We've got amplifiers that are made specifically to go with these speakers. But even if you look at these amplifiers as a standalone, there's some really key unique features, Colin, I want you to kind of go over with us.
So next up, our status amplifier. These things are high fidelity workhorses. This is the meat behind your system. This is what's going to help deliver the volume that you're looking for, but at the fidelity you're looking for as well. So we have a removable cover plate on the amplifier that hides all of the controls, gives it a very clean look, clean appearance. These amplifiers, while you can't really see it from the outside, they have a copper plated chassis, which helps reduce emitted noise. Another thing that you really can't see from the outside of the amplifier, but maybe we'll roll in a gut shot, is that they use a black printed circuit board to help reduce light inside of the amplifier. Some components can emit IR or other light sources, and that black printed circuit board helps absorb all of that instead of passing along to the next component. We use heavy duty plugs with, wrong side, with blade connectors in the amplifier. These are keyed, so they can only plug in one way. And then the speaker plugs on the other side of the amplifier, the polarity on the plug is set up one way, and then when you plug them into the amplifier, it actually connects the correct way no matter which way you plug them in. So phenomenal way to set up an amplifier. And then we have a remote bass level control. I'm looking at myself backwards on the camera, but that level control, you can actually plug in your own bass knob, and it just acts as a level for the sub. It doesn't do any kind of bass EQ, anything like that. So this is really designed to be a high fidelity product. It's not doing any kind of bass boost or adding anything to the signal. It's just allowing you to turn it up and down on that sub channel. And this is our HDA V90. So this product is, probably about the 4th generation in this style of amplifier, from our PDX V5 to PDX V9. then to our XA90V. And now this is the evolution in all of that. This is the pinnacle of where we've gone with that. And that addition of copper plated chassis and black printed circuit board and ultra low signal noise, that's been the biggest departure from even some of our earlier products, which are already stellar performance. This is taking it to that next level.
Hey, Colin, those are all great points about why a step amplifier is still a critical component in an audiophile type system, and a great segment of that part of it, because we don't always want to use built-in head unit power. I mean, ultimately there is power in our head units, but there's three amplifiers in that lineup besides the 5-channel you just talked about. There's also a dedicated 4-channel. And of course, the mono amplifiers as well. And, especially in a larger system, you can combine multiple mono amplifiers together. You can link them together using, right out of the package, and allow them to truly complement each other. And again, when you work with existing amplifiers that work with the same build topology and combine that with those speakers that are, again, using that same, design material applications, it really helps consolidate that package, so that whether you're using it in an individual package with just 4 speakers and a single amplifier, or combining it and adding multiple subwoofers, multiple amplifiers, and whatnot, from a tuning perspective, what you're starting with, and everything kind of builds out from there.
Well, that's a great comment, Gord. Thank you for that. And I think that's a perfect segue to our final product here, because so I'm going to say something. It might not make everybody happy, but there are situations where you could probably get away with just these great status amplifiers and run them active with these speakers, run the right crossovers, and have great sound stage like we all want. But that means, some serious fabrication to make sure that, from an analog standpoint, the position of those speakers are great. And why I'm saying this is because in today's world, it's kind of hard to get that higher level, awesome sound experience without the use of these 3 critical letters called DSP. So don't worry, we're talking about Alpine, we're talking about status, and yes, they have a DSP solution. This is going to be a DSP integrated multi-channel amplifier that can handle all those active setups. Colin, tell us about the DSP amplifier from Status.
Sure. So our HDP D90, it's going to deliver 12 channels of onboard power and 14 channels of DSP. So it does have an RCA output to feed into outboard subamps, because we know that, some of us are audiophiles and we're okay with moderate levels of power for our sub. And some of us are audiophiles that appreciate something that a lot of guys are coined as a term of SQL. And when you're looking at SQL, sometimes you just need to wring out all of the volume you possibly can, especially in the bass range. So at that point, you can use our HDP D90's onboard power to power all the speakers in the car, even 3-way active, even to the point of being 3-way active front and rear, or 3-way active front, 2-way active rear, a center channel, and maybe even height speakers or some other speaker in the vehicle, or 2-way active front center. The world is your oyster as far as channel complement. But then when you're done powering all your speakers with the processor and you want a ton of sub bass, you can add on our HDA M80 amplifiers, which are 800-watt monoblocks. Love that name, by the way, the HDA M80. Any of you guys that were kids playing with fireworks probably recognized that call out there a little bit. But these things are potent. They make a lot of boom and a lot of output with very, very high fidelity and very good quality at the same time. And you can link them all together. So you can literally use one amplifier to pass through to the next. So you could take that HDP D90, feed the RCA out signal into one M80, and have that M80 link to another M80 using the RCA output from one amplifier to another, allowing you to really build a system with as many subs and as many amps as you want. You just choose the level of bass that you want out of it. So that HDP D90, 31 band EQ, individual channel, 7 millisecond time alignment resolution, so super high resolution for dialing in your time alignment. The ability to do mix source, which I think we covered on another segment. That mix source allows you to get the high fidelity source into the status processor, but also mix in a lower fidelity source such as a factory head unit or CarPlay or Bluetooth calling, or all of the normal standard features that don't necessarily have the highest resolution can still be available when you need them. And you have the ability to even tie it into our HDS 990 head unit to give normal control of the status processor. There is a control cable that runs between the two and gives you the basic functions directly from our head unit itself. This thing, again, like our status amplifiers, it's a copper plated chassis and black printed circuit boards, very, very high signal noise ratio of 110 dB. This thing makes a ton of output with the highest fidelity and the lowest amount of noise possible, and it's a stellar performer.
Right. And Colin, as just mentioned, you can use that DSP completely on its own and work within an existing system. You can build out from there. And, ultimately, at the end of the day, you can combine it with multiple amplifiers, multiple speakers, multiple channels, and, really use that fine tuning capability, connecting a PC and really dialing in that system to allow status to kind of deliver the best possible resolution and sound that Alpine's ever been able to deliver up to today.
I'd like to take this opportunity and thank my two guests today, both Colin Vargo from Alpine as well as Gord Brown from Gentech International. Now, if you want to find out more details, because I know you're geeky like me and you want to see the specs and all that good stuff, make sure you head on over to the website, alpineusa.com. We'll put it on the screen. And if you happen to be a dealer in Canada and you want to become a dealer or you want more info, head up our good friends at Gentech International, as they are the exclusive distributor for all things Alpine north of the border. Now, my takeaway is, well, it's simply the fact that I think it's super cool that Alpine puts in the time and uses that race car formula that Gord had mentioned to bend the rules, to push the envelope, to level up and continuously change the game. If you look at the history of F1 status throughout the last few decades, there's always been that benchmark, that moment in time where Alpine did something just so ridiculous, so over the top, and that made a shift in the way things were going to happen for the years that followed. Well, no difference with F1 status. And what I mean by that is, yes, it is mostly unattainable for 99.8% of most of us. However, the fact that they have trickled down some of that technology that has been innovated through the development of F1 status and made it available to folks like you and I in packages that are seamless, that work together, that have a great not only materials, but also technology built in, speakers, amplifiers, DSP, all meant to work in unison. I think that's a godsend. I think that's really something that we're spoiled. And to not take advantage of something like that, well, this might be wasteful. So if you're into audiophile sound and you're an Alpine fan, or maybe you're not an Alpine fan, take the time, take a listen, go to your nearest dealer, check out the status line from Alpine. I think you'll be quite impressed. That's it for the CMA Connected, brought to you by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.